Welcome to Amputee Mythbusters, Episode 3. All amputees can run, just give them a blade. Let's check it out. First of all, I'm going to say, that's a myth. That's not going to happen for everybody. Let's talk about why. Here, my friends, let's pretend this is a healthy leg. This healthy leg has a hip, a knee, an ankle, and a foot. Essentially 3 different joints with 3 different muscle groups, okay? Now, along with that, there are 3 different basic types of amputees. A below the knee amputee, which means you're amputated below the knee somewhere, okay? Above the ankle, but below the knee. You have above the knee amputee, which means you're amputated anywhere from the knee to the hip. And then the third most basic category of amputee is hip dysarthritic amputee, which means you're amputated all the way to the hip. You don't even have a hip joint. So let's talk about the mechanical advantages or disadvantages of each type of amputee and talk about whether a blade is going to make running possible. Let's start with BK. Here's the foot. It is gone. This leg now represents a BK amputee, a below the knee amputee. Notice I still have a hip, I still have a knee, I still have a femur bone, I still have some residual piece of a fibula tibula. I am missing my foot. I guess hypothetically you could still have an ankle, maybe. Now, I think your ankle's gone. So ankle and foot are out. You've lost one joint, but the good news is you still have your hip and your knee. So what does that mean you can do? Your hip flexor gets that femur bone moving forward or backwards. So that's important with the mechanical business of running, right? You also have your knee. So along with getting that hip flexor and femur bone out, you have a knee, which is going to kick out your fibula tibula and get ready for when that foot hits the ground. And then this can bend backwards and forwards, and you still have your hip, and you can do all of this. It's just that your foot is missing. I don't want to say just, but you still have 2 other major joints. Let's move on to above the knee and talk about what they can do, or maybe what they can't do. Knee, gone. What's left? For an above the knee amputee, you still have your hip joint, and you still have some residual femur bone. You can still move that femur bone forward or backwards, or I guess in any direction, because this is a ball and socket joint, okay? But mechanically, they are still able to get that femur bone out. And with this, you can kind of get your whole prosthetic moving forward. Now granted, you still have to manipulate a knee and a foot. Much more complicated than a BK, but still manageable. Will a blade get this person to run? No. You're going to need a pretty good setup. I think you have to be athletically inclined. I think you have to be a pretty strong person. You would more than likely need some type of a running knee, and a blade would help a lot. It helps a lot. It's not going to make you run or give you the ability to run on its own. The mechanical disadvantage is becoming too great. Now, let's move on to the third main category of amputee, hip dysarthritis, which means this is gone. What's left? Nothing. You have no hip, you have no knee, you have no ankle or foot to mechanically move a leg. So when I run, I have to artificially get my hip, my knee, and my foot all out in front of me. Very, very, very challenging to do. I'm going to tell you a true story. This has been said to me more than once, where I'll be talking to an able-bodied person, and I might be talking about running, and before I was able to run, before the Helix hip came out, I would have conversations and say, you know, I wish I could run, or I can't do that because I can't run, and the person would just respond with, just get a blade, get a blade. I saw somebody who got a blade and they're running 100 meter in like 11 seconds. That did happen, and I don't know who that person was, but they were a BK. They were below the knee. Now some AKs are really fast. If you watch them in the Paralympics, they're really, really fast. These are super athletes who have super equipment, including the running knee and the blade. And they're able to compensate through the running knee and the blade quite a bit, but I'm telling you, that person running so fast is naturally athletically gifted. Now, someone like me to run, very few people on this planet can do it. I think I'm the only one on the planet to run 100 meter with a Helix hip, a C leg, and a plain old Jane Triton carbon copy foot. I mean, not carbon copy, carbon fiber foot. It almost killed me, but I did it. And I ran the whole way. Any hip dysartic that I've seen run, well, actually, I saw a young guy running like a jog with it. Maybe he could do 100 meter too. And he just had basically the same setup as me. But any other person I've seen, they've had the running knee and the blade and, you know, a lot of time and planning into that. Will a blade on its own get a hip dysartic to run? No way, no way. A lot more has to happen in that. So, I want to conclude this episode. A blade will not make an amputee run. There's a lot of mechanical factors that come into play. The most likely amputee to run is a below the knee because they still have their hip and their knee. An AK can run, it's a lot more difficult. The numbers of people who can do it are much dramatically less than a BK, than a below the knee. And hip dysartics have no joints at all. No hip, no knee, no ankle or foot. And that mechanical disadvantage is huge. Very few people on this planet can run as hip dysartics. This is going to conclude this episode of Amputee Mythbusters. Episode 3, just get a blade and you can run. I'll see you later.